Good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo podcast, stream, experience, whatever. I'm your host, the Harry Channel. And with us tonight are guests Dr. Functional.
Well, hello.
Prospero.
Hello.
Serenity Star 13.
Hello, all.
And Skep Tock.
Hi, everybody.
How are you all doing tonight?
I am well, thank you. How are you?
I'm vaccine free.
Yeah. Did you want to describe the incompetence of the Vogon administration?
So it really was Vogonish this time too. Sometimes they're better than others. Like later on this month, I'm going to see my cardiologist, and they're actually fairly squared away. But this is just classic. I show up at the at the giant edifice hospital, the faceless, brutalist architecture, VA hospital that you feel like you're walking in 1984 anyway. You walk in and I ask where is the gymnasium that's down by the spinal cord treatment area, which is where according to my note that I got on my phone, that's where I'm supposed to go for my vaccination. So they tell me, and they tell me wrong because they thought I got the wrong thing, and they thought it was in the old place, which is on the other side of the hospital. So I finally, anyway, a variety of things happen, and I finally find directions. And this really is a giant complex. I mean, it's several buildings. It's like a campus. And I finally find the right building, and there's this long line. And I say, I'm here to get my immunization. And she said, I got to ask you to sign in that line right there. I said, okay. She asked nicely. So I stood in that line, and I waited until I got up there. And I got up to the lady, and I swear to God, she hands me a ticket like you get from a machine. Mm-hmm. That's what I had been standing in line for. They didn't have a machine, but they had a roll of tickets. They had someone who they were paying doubtless much more than $15 an hour to hand out the tickets. I shit you not. So I took my ticket and I said, where do I wait? She says, that line over there. So I get in that line, and I noticed that we're all in line in the same order as our tickets. So I'm thinking to myself, why did we stand in that line? Why didn't we just come over and stand in this line? But at any rate, I'm sure it has to do with counting the people who show up and getting reports out or something. Anyway, so we stood in that line. Stood in that line for about 25 minutes. Then a lady comes out and she says, we're going to ask you to come back in about 4 hours, maybe 3 hours. We don't know. No reason given, but she asked nicely. And so I said, what if I can't come back in 4 hours? Because I'll be goddamned if I'm going to wait in the fucking hospital for 4 hours to get my shot. She said, you can request a call for reschedule. Okay, and I said, so they're going to call me and I'll reschedule? That's right. And sure enough, so I departed the hospital. And sure enough, on my way home, they called my cell phone and I rescheduled on the phone. So I'm getting a shot next Tuesday. But anyway, that's the sum total of my thing. So I get to go through this all again next Tuesday. And I mean, this wipes out your morning or your afternoon. And my shot is scheduled to go in my arm at noon, but they said be there by 10:30.
Of course.
So
otherwise
they figured
you
out.
Wait in a room full of people, and next Tuesday's show should be fun.
I'll
be on standby if you need me to take your show.
I was just going to say, if you wouldn't mind, if you and Prospero or Prospero wouldn't mind, I feel like I've been asking you to be my substitutes a lot lately, and I'm sorry about that. But if this thing knocks me down,
we'll take care of it.
I don't want everybody to suffer as having an absentee host. So, yeah. But anyway, so I've got that to look forward to. On the other hand, I should have more stories of the madcap hijinks of the Vogon administration on Tuesday. But thanks for asking.
No, we were kind of looking forward to finding out that you got your shot, and
yeah,
finding out you didn't is not That's not at all what we were hoping for.
No, it's not at all what I was hoping for, too. I was hoping that the 3-week clock would start and I could look forward to my second shot, my booster shot.
Well, look at the bright side. At least the Biden administration figured out how to get the vaccinator to put the vaccine in you.
In my arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to have people to put it in their arms. That's brilliant, Joe. Did you think of that on your own? Jesus God. He's a president. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
You know, America is looking at Canada, laughing at you guys, saying, ha, what a stupid PM you have. We didn't realize we were saying to ourselves, hold our own beer.
Yeah.
Jesus.
The race to the bottom, my friend.
Yeah, it's ugly, but it's real.
Hey, my state's doing good, so I got nothing.
Yeah.
Us in Alaska.
Yeah, no, it's just that, you know, at the federal level, I mean, they're both just...
Oh, yeah, no, I get what you're saying. No, I totally agree. It's funny.
I did see that West Virginia rejoined the cool kids and opened everything up, so I think that's a good thing.
Oh, well, technically, we've not really closed anything, but yeah, no, it's interesting to watch, really.
You kind of put a thumb in the eye, you know, and it's interesting to hear. I know you probably didn't want the show to go this way, Harry, but it's an interesting notion that people have that Manchin might change parties, and I think there's absolutely no chance of that because
No, he won't.
He has unparalleled amounts of power, for one thing, and secondly, there are people in he gives up his Senate seat if he crosses if he crosses the aisle, because there are just too many people in West Virginia who will vote for a dead dog with a D next to it rather than vote for a Republican.
Really?
I mean, not after the last election. I mean, we went hard red.
I mean, their governor's Republican. Their other senators
Republican.
Yeah, that
Manchin is the sole remaining Democrat.
they want a certain type of Democrat, though. They're used to a bird family type of Democrat as opposed to any kind of Republican. And there are a lot of people who look at Republicans still. They were voting against bad Democrats more than they were voting for Republicans. I don't really think there's full-throated support for the Republican Party in West Virginia. It really has never been.
Sort of, Shelley Moore Capito kind of proved herself. So that's the reason why she was voted for.
Some homegrown local politicians might generate that, but that's going to take a little bit of time.
Manchin's been governor, so he's got that going for him.
Which saved him a little bit.
He probably could be an independent.
I'd much rather see him be an independent because we have a lot more independents.
He already is. He just has a D next to his name.
Well, right, but I mean, like, do a Joe Lieberman and accept caucus with the Republicans. But, you know, honest to God, I'm not sure. Jesus Christ, I wouldn't want a caucus with the Republicans.
Well, I mean,
You know, not with
he's good where he is.
Not with the current Senate leadership.
No.
Not for the Republicans. McConnell is impossible.
There's no home for anybody with integrity or good sense. There really is not.
No, there's
Yep.
not. And
That is unfortunately the state of things. And being, I'm not sure what would be more disheartening, being the last honest politician or the last honest journalist.
Yeah, no.
I just read a story about a journalist who's given up a 22-year career.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Oh, no, it's Carrie. Her last name is Lake. She's been at an Arizona television station for 22 years.
Ugh.
I heard about this.
Yeah,
Yes,
apparently does science and medical reporting.
that was a tweet. Yeah.
Yeah, and she just can't stand the state of journalism, and
Don't blame her.
you know, is just I disheartened enough to give up a job she's held that long. Now, I mean, this may be a no burden on her as far as finances go, but if she really enjoyed her career and has been struggling with how journalists are viewed thanks to CNN and MSNBC and Fox, and I mean, because Fox does deserve to get kicked around the block. Because they're all slobbery in the other
They're barking
direction.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I feel badly for someone like that. Maybe she could hook up with Sinclair, or somebody who would show her a little love. 'Cause,
Someone with a little
that's
bit of
where-
integrity.
Yeah,
at
that's where
least.
Cheryl Atkinson went, to Sinclair, and she has integrity.
Yeah.
Accept the cookies, bigot.
Does that look pretty good? I'm
Yep.
trying
Yes.
some new
Fantastic.
things. Hopefully that's good and nice and big and easy to read. Look, I can make it even larger.
I can see the lines in Joe's face.
Oh,
All right.
God.
Now,
So
this is
yeah, Joe is he's doing a bang up job. I mean, I think we can all agree that his job performance is equal to, maybe even better than the amount of love and support that the American people showed for him in the last election.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Ohio AG now this is one that Prospero brought to my attention. Ohio AG demands President Biden to reinstate Operation Talon. We have these fine words here, but would you like me to read some of this, or would you like to talk about what Operation Talon is?
If you don't mind, go ahead and
Sure.
read
And then just stop me when you're ready to
It's
explode.
a very, very short blurb.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the entire story right there.
Let's see. Ohio Attorney General David Yost is demanding that President Joe Biden and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, reinstate Operation Talon, a nationwide operation to remove convicted sex offenders who are in the country illegally. Gee, that sounds like a common sense idea. Yost, along with the Attorney General from Arizona, North Dakota, and Wyoming, sent President Biden a letter calling for reinstatement of the program following news reports that the operation had been terminated. Deport convicted alien sex offenders. That's what Operation Talon was supposed to do, and President Biden shut it down. Yost said, inconceivable. And I think he does know what that word means.
Yes, he does.
Yost's letter is similar to the one 18 attorneys general sent President Biden last week calling for the reinstatement of Operation Talon. It seems that this whole everything Trump did is bad thing may have some. There may be some problems with that model of government.
Yeah, that's 21 attorneys general.
Could I just
Or actually
put in an important? I think this is an interesting footnote to all this.
Please.
So I opened up Wikipedia and I said, "Show me the Operation Talon disambiguation page," because I knew there was, I remember Operation Talon from Vietnam, right? So Operation Talon, I'm just going to read you, may designate the British amphibious landing at ICAB in Western Burma, blah, blah, blah. Operation Talon, a military operation in the Vietnam War. Operation Talon, Iraq, north of Fallujah in 2006. Operation Talon, deployment of Canadian troops in Afghanistan. Operation Talon, an Australian police operation against the Middle East crime gang Brothers for Life in Sydney, Australia. That's it.
Yeah, I did some digging.
Operation Talon is not even in the fucking Wikipedia. What?
Well, I did some
That's
digging
crazy.
on it,
Go ahead.
and it's a unofficial title to a program that was started in, I want to say, Wyoming, in the mid to late 90s, and it since had spread almost across the nation because who doesn't want to get rid of egregious offenders who are in the country illegally? Now, according to the the Department of Homeland Security, it wasn't so much that this was canceled, but ICE claims that their higher ups said, okay, the increase in mobility that President Trump signed before leaving office was now being put on hold to see what the Biden administration wants to do with it. Take that with a grain of salt, because it's, different branches of government trying to cover for one another. But yeah, that's basically what Operation Talon.
Didn't Biden also instruct ICE to cease with their normal roundups?
Yes.
So,
But that's not really related to Talon. But that's why I can kind of put some legitimacy to the DHS claims that ICE put it on hold and wanted to see what Biden and his administration want to do, because they could be like starting this whole thing and then be told to shut it down with what's going on with them trying to disenfranchise ICE.
Well, with Ohio, Wyoming, Arizona, and North Dakota, along with 18 other attorneys general, that's 22 states that don't understand what direction they're supposed to take with this.
Yeah.
Which indicates to me that the administration is not addressing this. Homeland Security isn't addressing it. Whomever should be addressing it isn't. You know, we
Yes.
saw some pretty big stings under the Trump administration
Oh yeah.
where there were large numbers of children recovered.
Mhm.
Ohio was one of those states.
Yep.
Georgia was another. I mean, and we're talking tens of, not just tens, it was 20 some, I think, in each state.
And just recently, like a couple days ago, 150 missing children were found in Tennessee, ranging
Yeah.
from 3 to 17.
Were these missing because they were separated at the border, and these are the ones we lost track of?
No, I think 5 of the children were suspected to be victims of human trafficking. It's just that's all the info it gives, and I had to go to BBC America for that.
It's a
Right,
mix.
of course.
It's a mix,
Of course,
yeah.
So I have a somewhat serious question. What the hell is it with progressives and immigrants and sex offenses? You go and look at what happened in Sweden, and you had a politician, a dude who got raped by an immigrant, and then practically apologized for the sins of his ancestors rather than even trying to get the guy prosecuted. I mean, we see this isn't quite on the same scale, but what is it? Is it just the
I have an emergency.
patronizing?
I have an
Sorry?
emergency pun. I have an emergency pun. Stockholm
do.
syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it,
Yeah, no,
There
but
is
they
an
do have a
all-cult-
problem.
there's
Go
an
ahead.
all cultures are beautiful moral relativism about this.
Oh yeah, they're not criminals. They're minor attracted people. It's an orientation to
Well,
these.
it
Well,
also
it-
has to do with the fact that
cultural-
they think that those people are too pathetic to hold them to a standard that white people should be held to because they're too pathetic. They can't hold on to their baser natures.
I mean, if
So
you-
it's basically that
That's the way
liberal
I look at it.
progressive racism that they,
Yeah.
they have. That,
Well,
that weird
I
sort
actually
of
Prospero
think
probably
racism.
sees it differently though. So let Prospero say it real
yeah,
quick.
well, all I was going to say is if you remember after Cologne,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, the government telling women not to go out because they might get sexually molested by cultural enrichers.
Did you see what they were wearing?
Yeah, I mean, it was New Year's Eve, and it was roving bands of Asian men, as they like to put it.
Asian.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but it was a bunch of Muslim guys, you know, either from Turkey or Syria, because Germany's full of them, roaming around, sexually molesting women on New Year's Eve. And it was the, well, gals, you know, maybe you know, should make sure you're in tight-knit groups. And okay, look, we've all had that lecture. At least I hope we all.
Make sure you're wearing chador.
That
Yeah.
was victim blaming, 5
Oh,
years before.
Unbelievable bullshit out
But-
of Merkel's government on that.
One of the questions that you're asking, Harry, is what is their point of view? And I actually have a little bit of a different take on it. I think progressives, one of the fundamental differences between progressives and conservatives, libertarians, conservatarians, whatever, is that liberals tend to want to look away from unpleasantness and hope for they hope and feel rather than think and observe. And where conservatives say, hey, lots of rapes are happening, this is bad, liberals tend to think you're just trying to keep these people who want a better life for themselves out of this country because you want to keep the stuff that you have and you're all paranoid about losing the things you have and really competing with somebody who comes in here and has a will to work. Conservatives say, no, these people don't have a will to work. They have a will to steal and they have a will to live on welfare and rape our women. The truth is somewhere it is parts of both of those things are true. Some of all of those things are true at the same time in varying proportion, and making those measurements of what proportion and how much importance to weight each sub-factor is where the truth actually lies, and that's where things get fuzzy for almost everybody. I probably fair to say absolutely everybody.
Well, it's why one would advocate for vetting people who come into your country. This is why you do not want unfettered migrant immigration or unfettered illegal immigration, because you have no chance to vet. We saw boatloads upon boatloads and trainfuls upon trainfuls of clearly well over age 18 males from Syria
Enjoy your high school track and field experience, kid.
coming into Europe because they were migrating.
I identify as woman. Where is bathroom?
And they were listing themselves as underage. You know, these are people with full beard. There were no women in those groups. It was
No, they're just trying to
nothing-
work the system. It's pathetic.
Well, it isn't just that. It isn't just that. Not in Europe, it isn't. And I mean, our issues. I'm sorry. I will make a value judgment here. We're probably a little bit better off with migration from our southern border, if it really is people from Latin America, than Europe is with their migration.
I've said the same thing before, I think, on Der Ratskeller. We have a much better deal than they have.
But
Because you're,
they've caught Middle Easterners mixing in with the Mexican border.
they're
jumpers.
Africans. I mean, actual African
Yes.
Africans from Africa with big wads of cash
Yes.
that are coming in. You know, they literally took a plane to Mexico so they could cross on our southern border.
Right.
And the whole, yeah, I mean, we're screwed.
Those are hate facts, Harry.
I know. We'll talk more about, I mean, I'm sure we'll be talking about immigration in the upcoming week and the week after that and the week after that. This topic's not going to go away. I just need to remind myself we don't have to obsess about it. Instead, we can talk about this. Trump warns GOP allies against using his name for fundraising.
As he should.
Could the New
As
York
he
Post
should.
have found a more unpleasant photograph?
I'm
Yeah.
sure they could have.
He's looking very orange and loud in that. This is the New York Post. This is supposed to make him look strong, I think. Former President Trump has warned GOP groups to stop using his name and likeness for fundraising. A source confirmed to the Post. Trump's attorneys fired off a letter Friday to the Republican National Committee, the National Republican Senatorial Committee, and the National Republican Congressional Committee with the request. News of the letter was first reported by Politico on Saturday. The president, who has long been protective of his name and public brand, because he's a business guy and he understands what that means,
Yep.
was reportedly upset with RNC emails using his name to raise funds, when the money could potentially be used on behalf of Republicans who voted to impeach him. There's the punchline.
I don't blame him for that. Those swampy motherfuckers using my image would upset me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would be like, no, you little rat bastards. Because, I mean, every time the Congressional Republican Committee, their name lights up when your phone rings.
Yeah.
I just squeal at the phone.
Yeah, but this is Trump at his very worst when he says Trump has vowed to rain down revenge on incumbents who refused to support him by supporting primary challengers in 2022, regardless of what their views on the issues are. The issues are secondary. The most important thing is they didn't support the Trump. This is the bad side of Trump, because if you for, you know, he doesn't understand that modern politics is a set of shifting loyalties, shifting questions, shifting everything. And you need to be a little bit nimble and a little less brittle than he is to be successful. And that was his downfall. I really do believe in the election.
It probably was. I think there was enough homegrown annoyance within Republican ranks in regard those that voted to impeach, that matter was going to settle itself, because I mean, what, the Wyoming caucus, Rip Liz Cheney, a new one. A number of states have already,
I think Liz Cheney is done.
what she deserves to be.
I agree.
And it isn't over Trump that she deserves to be.
No, exactly. Because she's a shithead.
She's a shithead. She's a shitty neocon, just like her dad.
Yeah,
And
exactly right.
She's actually worse because her father had certain competencies. Much of a prick as he is, you know, you
Yeah,
can't.
it pains me to admit it, but you're right.
Yeah, you can't say the man did not know the machinations of government. And I'm not sure Liz knows anything other than woo-hoo cushy salary and retirement.
Yeah, well, she's had it tough. No, she hasn't.
Poor bitch. I just,
Yeah.
it's look. I understand some people. If any of the Republicans who had voted for impeachment were in danger of being ousted because they were in very blue districts, but they had gotten the vote on that Trump wave, I could see that because that's political calculus. But when you're coming from a state that is so fucking red it can be seen from outer space, and
Yeah,
you
it's
decide to morally preen.
Yeah, like a fucking peacock. Seriously.
Well, it's like she is the dopey.
Well, she doesn't realize she looks like a dog licking itself in public. You know, she thinks it's preening and looking amazing, and everybody's looking at her and just saying, that's just hard to unsee, bitch.
Yeah, she's just distasteful.
Yep.
And it isn't. I mean, you don't lay the sins of the fathers on the child, but she's just all in. I mean,
She hasn't been shy about trading on his heritage.
No.
So, let's just say
No, the
fair is
Bushes are
fair,
more,
right?
The Bushes are more demure than either the Cheneys or the McCains,
Yeah.
and they're not all that demure. But it's just distasteful. I mean, ugh.
Well, the streetable Bushes, Jeb and W, were. Jeb was not, but W was fairly demure. And Neil is, of course, not streetable. So we used to talk about girls being streetable or not, as to whether we would show them to our fraternity brothers, where we would show up at the house with her on our arm, or if they weren't streetable, we would go and do what we needed to do in secret.
A moped. Fine to run, but you don't want to show your friends.
When you mentioned Peacock earlier, I thought you were providing a segue for the next article, which is New York legislators advance bill to repeal Cuomo's emergency powers. So somebody has become expendable.
That's a face up and a mother could love.
Obviously.
The New York State Senate is... Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, this is something I would like to see a lot of states do in regard their governor's emergency powers. I think
I expect this will be the first of several, at
they
least.
need to be addressed.
The New York State Senate has passed a bill that will repeal emergency powers granted to Governor Dipshit at the start of the coronavirus pandemic. The legislation revokes the governor's authority to issue new directives while allowing those that are now enforced and that pertain to preserving public health to continue under significantly greater legislative oversight, the New York State Senate said in a press release. The push to strip Cuomo of his emergency powers comes as he faces two controversies, which we're all well aware of. Yeah. We don't need to go into the reasons why. We both know a small problem with reporting of old people dying, and the other one is that he's a bit touchy, a bit grabby.
Yeah, eat the whole sausage.
Yeah,
Giggity.
Actually, it is a trend. Come on, states. There are 50 of you out there. I'd like to see them do this because it's a trend I'd like to see hit the federal government. The legislatures need to fucking man up. I am sick to death of these abrogative legislatures who have been just hurling all these privileges, literal privileges, on the executive branch. That is not where the power rests. The power rests in the legislative branch, and they have been more than happy.
Yeah, I was just going to say they've been complicit, haven't they?
Oh, they don't want to go on the record the way it would put them on the record. And because nobody seems to have the do-re-mi to withstand the slog to go after the federal executive and get it to the Supreme Court, where you might at least hear arguments about why the executive should have.
I think I have a theory about why Congress is the way that it is. Most people in positions like legislators, like congressmen and senators, are driven by a mixture of fear and greed. Well, here's what happens. They achieve election to the House of Representatives or Senate. The greed part is satisfied. The fear remains. And that's always a balance, because greed gets you to take chances and fear gets you to not take chances, basically. And so fear inveighing against risky behavior and greed promoting risky behavior. Well, the greed gets satisfied, so the fear takes over. And what happens to legislators is they begin focusing on how do I use the advantages of incumbency to remain in this cushy, amazing job where I don't really have to work very hard, get to look amazing all the time, get to eat at the fanciest restaurants, and have at least the illusion of power. The feeling that I'm plugged in. I'm part of the
I'm somebody,
the
mom.
I'm somebody, mom. Yeah, there's some of that too. How do I get to continue that? And what happens is that begins to rule their behavior. And one of the ways that you do that is not get your name attached to bad legislation. And then what ends up happening is that collective, you get this kind of additive additive error, the aggregate almost entropic type of thing that happens that keeps them from ever doing anything. It prevents them from going forward, and eventually things slow down so much they can't. There's not enough force to get anything moving at all. So they just come to work. They have meetings. They have their caucus meetings. They have silly votes about unimportant things. Then they go back to their constituents and tell them what a great job they're doing. And then they get reelected. And that just gets reinforced again and again. And over the years, what happens is you get a very weak legislative part. And where there is a vacuum, executives will rush in. And people like Donald Trump and Barack Obama will say, this executive order thing, let's see how far I can push it.
Well,
and nobody's there to push back.
Yeah, sclerotic meat seats posing as legislators.
So we have 3 stories coming up, which are all related.
Sorry about the rant.
No, it's okay. But I know we'll talk about the economy. Apparently, we added, 379,000 jobs in February.
New minimum wage will take care of that.
Yeah, so they're saying hiring
new
picked up
minimum
steam
wage?
in February as a winter wave of coronavirus. The recovery is finally emerging from its winter hibernation, said Sarah House, senior economist at Wells Fargo. She noted that new cases of COVID-19 have dropped sharply since January. Now, Wells Fargo, by the way, is the same bank that just sort of randomly signed people up for accounts. And Congress appears poised to pump more money into the economy if President Biden's $1.9 trillion rescue package wins approval. And look, there's even a graph.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There's
Look at
also
that.
an awesome graph that shows this remarkable correlative plunge at January 20th in the number of COVID cases being reported and COVID deaths.
Does
Look at
know
April 20.
how to do a graph at NPR? Is that the problem?
Yeah, I think it is because it's like clusterfuck on one end. I mean, it's just
Well,
like,
it's 2 times the scale is all wrong. This
Well, look at this damn thing.
that
here.
Harry's trying to help him out, but
No, here, look. So we have April 2020 minus 20.7 million, right?
I know.
And then suddenly you see all of these huge increases during Trump, where a bunch of these people got back to work, right?
Right.
And then it just sort of peters off, and then there's sort of the election, which is this little red square right here where my mouse is, and then they have this little chub here, this little half chub of growth.
It's not even a half. That's not even an eighth chub.
Yeah. Trump, during almost the entirety of his presidency, had higher job growth.
Yeah, the economy is pushing rope, is what we're saying here. This is nothing.
It's a 0.0125 chub.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, they got to make Biden look good because God knows he can't do it himself.
Well, I just love
Jesus.
that talking about unemployment, plunged to 6.2%. What was unemployment before the old lockdown?
3.2, I think.
Yeah. So they got a long way to go.
That's okay.
What's black unemployment right now? I bet you can't even find that number.
Oh,
Most likely.
It
not.
was
I think
it
you
was
should
like
probably just stop, measuring it that way.
oh yes.
Is there any breakdown in the difference of like tax brackets of those jobs,
No, of
or
course
is it
not.
just
No,
general
no.
clumps?
Just jobs.
Okay,
Just
They're not
jobs.
going to do
Jabs.
that.
Jabs.
just jabs.
But it doesn't matter because Joe Biden has decided that we're going to spend $1.9 trillion in COVID relief.
yeah.
Now this
decided
isn't
that.
all COVID relief. That's
Yeah.
the thing. This is just $1.9 trillion of spending.
Yes.
So we have Senate
still gonna
Democrats
teach
pass
Indians
their
about-
1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package on Saturday. That's today. Sending it back to the House for expected approval in the coming days. Yeah, I'm sure the House will be all over this. If there was a way they could-
9.1% is for COVID relief.
Yeah, if they could wedge more amendments onto this thing for more pork back in the House and then kick it back at here, have this back. It's $2 trillion. But 2.1. Hey, we can just do this all day. The party hopes
will.
to have the aid bill to President Joe Biden's desk before unemployment aid programs expire on March 14th, and that's the only part of this that I don't take issue with. Is maybe continuing with helping people that are unemployed be not screwed because the government decided to screw them. Democrats had to make several last-minute changes to win support from all of their members, as they say the plan is needed to get the country through the end of the pandemic, and one of those was Joe Manchin. Republicans opposed another majority spending plan, contending the state of the economy does not warrant it. Well, that's not really the issue. The issue is that we can't afford to just keep printing money.
Want to
So
see
let's
an
see.
inflation bomb? That's an inflation bomb.
Democratic-held House aims to plan this, blah, blah, blah. Senate approved the plan on a 50 to 49 party line vote as Republicans questioned the need for another broad spending package. They're not wrong.
Yeah.
The legislation includes direct payments of up to $1,400 to most Americans, a $300 weekly boost to jobless benefits into September, and an expansion of the child tax credit for 1 year. It also puts new funding into COVID-19 vaccine distribution and testing, rental assistance for struggling households, and K-12 schools for reopening costs. That would be just that would just be a reward for helping him get elected. The package also includes $14 billion in payroll support for U.S. airlines. That's corporate welfare.
Yep.
The third round of federal aid for the industry in exchange for not furloughing or cutting workers' pay rates through September 30th. Airline contractors were set aside $1 billion. Senate approval brings Biden's first legislative, don't care. Sluggish economy, don't care.
Sounds like he's paying off a bunch
idiot.
of people that helped getting
Yes, he is.
Really don't
elected.
care what Chuck Schumer has to
Because-
say about anything.
If you just took $1.9 trillion and gave it to every man, woman, and child in America, you would give them something around like $3,600.
Yes. That's
But
right.
of course, 90% of that has to go to paying off people, government bloat, laundering money, basically.
Yep.
The government can
It's
only give
disgusting.
the government can only give away about, even when it's just directly dispersing money, it can only give away about 75 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
It uses up 25 cents of every dollar it gives away to give it away.
And they can't
That's
even
no
get
kidding.
that right.
That's no fooling.
Yeah.
Well, they're so inept, Skep, they can't even give away money.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it just...
They can. It's
It's not even my government, and I'm getting hot-blooded.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
it's,
All right.
here's the interesting thing, guys, and this is something that I think is really sinister and should scare the hell out of everybody. If we print a bunch of money to feel good about ourselves with assholes like Paul Krugman cheering from the sideline, who ought to be locked up, but that's another story. That what's going to happen? Well, there will be too many dollars chasing too few goods and services. Well, what does that mean? Well, it ends up weakening the currency. Well, that's interesting, but what does that mean? Well, there is a new competitor, fiat currency, in the currency biz, to kind of paraphrase that, Tom Lair, take a drink. And it is called Bitcoin. Bitcoin, as more and more blocks get mined and added to the blockchain, will get more and more confidence in it as a currency and will start to be held by more and more people. And what will happen is there will be a balance at which the dollar has less confidence than Bitcoin does. And when that happens, you will first notice that you can't buy gasoline anymore. Then you'll notice that you can't buy goods and services practically at all. You will see our economy retract like you have never even thought about.
Like me looking at a
It
picture
will be
of Nancy Pelosi in a bikini.
it will be apocalyptic. I'm
we'll just
dead
print
serious
more money.
about
It'll
this.
be fun.
This is not fun. This is for real, and this is really happening.
I think they're going to back away from the abyss before it gets quite that bad, but they are going
I
to
pray to
completely
God
screw the pooch
you're right.
before they do it. I think it's going to be one of those things where the reality
They're going to damage
feedback-
the dollar, though, Harry.
They're going to damage the dollar, and they're going to have some splaining to do, because the amount of support for these people will dry up instantaneously if the people who are the real power behind things start to get really seriously hurt.
Yeah, it will. I mean, if they keep fapping about the way they are, I mean, with the kind of programs they keep pushing,
Elon Musk just bought $1.5 billion in Bitcoin. He makes a lot of good decisions in a row.
Main Street and Bitcoin will be a very good way to leverage actually the government to act responsibly, won't it? If there are enough holders of Bitcoin like Elon Musk who wave a little red flag and go,
If the government ever started buying Bitcoin, Prospero, what do you think would happen to the value of the dollar?
God almighty.
It would plummet
I know.
against
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, what I'm saying
It'd
is,
be like a teeter-totter.
yeah.
Well, I mean, China bought a huge chunk of Bitcoin, and their dollar hadn't. Is that just other factors playing into it?
Well, China has been manipulating the valuation of the yuan.
China has a bullshit currency that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It means we're
No,
China.
enough said.
It means we're China and we'll
Makes
attack
sense.
you. It means we're China and we make all your shit. It means
Well,
No, they're-
Circle back to
they-
Joe Manchin.
Yeah,
We
they've been
did mention
manipulating.
Joe Manchin at the beginning of the show, and he's relevant to this story. I don't want him to get.
Okay.
yes. I'm sorry. I've
No,
hijacked.
you're fine,
the
but
story.
it's time
We
to
need
talk
to get
about
back
Joe
on track.
Manchin because
Yes, it
Serenity's
is.
here, so we always talk about
Yes.
West Virginia and Serenity.
Well,
That
the thing
part-
I think is hilarious is the fact I wonder how many of these gigantic, like these people who come from these senators who come from these gigantic fucking states who have millions upon millions of people thought they'd be kissing the ass of a senator from West Virginia who barely has 2 million people in it.
Well, why don't you read the relevant paragraph?
Can
I guess
do.
these two paragraphs here. Can you read those?
The two of them? Yeah, I can
Yeah.
do that. Disagreement within the party stalled the process for about 12 hours on Friday. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia declined to back his party's proposal for unemployment aid, sending leaders scrambling to craft a compromise that could win his support and salvage the bill. Democrats settled on a plan to keep the current $300 per week jobless benefit boost in place through September 6th, while making the first $10,200 in assistance tax-free. The proposal trimmed the $400 weekly supplement through August 29th, passed in the House a week ago. My boy.
Yes. Yeah, so Joe is making his impact felt. I mean, as we discussed.
Oh yeah. It's like, but still, it's funny to me that like you have senators from like California and Washington and Oregon and New York and all those places having to try to win this guy from this tiny ass little state thought process and like win him over. It's like, I can guarantee you none of them thought that would ever happen. They all just, because my state gets written off because before this, we were not considered important. And we were just considered the backwater hillbillies who nobody gives a damn about.
Well, now you're pivotal.
I know. And we also proved that you can do the COVID thing, even for a bunch of backwater hillbillies.
Well, we
do the
have,
vaccine thing.
Oh, darn it. Okay, I'm working on a new system that's less error prone, and I'm still not used to it here. Let's see. So, in a related article, remember we talked about this passing as part of reconciliation, right? So they had to keep it as a strict budget sort of move. Let's see if I can make this change. So Bernie Sanders has been really pushing for the $15 minimum wage. And so they had to do that as a separate vote. And here's how it turned out. 58 to 42. Can I get a womp womp for Bernie Sanders?
Womp womp.
Womp. Yeah, it's he could, I think there were enough sane people that they realized that this just doesn't work. And why you would do this as a nationwide thing, I'm completely confused.
Baffling.
Yeah.
Who are the 42 idiots who voted for the idea? Like, I wouldn't have guessed that there would have been that many. Obviously, you would have had this squad, but
well, you can just basically count the ones who didn't. The Senate voted 58 to 42 against the idea, which the Congressional Budget Office estimates would lift 900,000 people out of poverty, but cause another 1.4 million to lose their jobs due to higher business operating costs. You do realize that the way we calculate poverty in this country, this could be a topic for a future show.
Mm-hmm.
It would be, this is just one of those arguments that makes no sense. We would literally end up redefining what poverty is, and the same number of people would just be technically in poverty.
Do they know what 900? I mean, do they know how to subtract 900,000 from 1.5 million?
Probably not.
no, because they still think 2 + 2 = 5.
Because the net fucking here is 600,000 people.
Well, also, if 1.4 million people have their income go to zero, and 900,000 people suddenly are above the poverty line, I don't understand that math at all. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
You're creating
just
more poor people than you are helping people.
Absolutely. And it's the last report I heard, it was actually 1.5 to 1.7 was the
poor
prediction.
Poochie.
So I mean, you're actually you're very, very near a break-even point on this.
Well, no,
and lifting, I mean, maybe 300,000 people would end up better off.
Maybe.
Maybe.
do you mind
Please,
if I
what?
talk about this?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, here's the deal, guys. These are two different statistics, and you can't subtract one from the other. It's like, imagine somebody says, I've got a conglomerate. It's a company with two companies in it, and I'm selling you, I'm offering 20% of the companies for sale. And you say, okay, I'm interested. So is it 20% of each company? No, it's 5% of one company and 15% of the other company. Well, that doesn't add to 20% of anything. It's the same kind of problem with this statistic. Lifting 900,000 people out of poverty, conceivably there could be 900,000 people who make $1 short of being not poor. Okay, so that number could be $900,000. On the other hand, 1.4 million people losing their jobs. Let's say that they're making all of them are making the minimum wage right now, which is like $9 an hour. So they're making $18,000 an hour. 18,000 times 1.4 million is a lot more than $900,000.
Yes.
Do we understand this?
Yes,
Everybody
we
with me so far? So it's the effect of 1.4 million people losing their jobs versus 900,000 people who are very, very close to not being poor anymore, eking it over the line. In terms of impact is gigantic, and they are in no way comparable. They're in no way comparable or additive or commutative or associative characteristic statistics. There.
Yeah, devastating.
Well, I think I really want to do sort of econ shorts on different econ topics at some point, and it would be worth going back and talking about things like what is money. I realize most people know that, but having a real discussion about it is totally worth it. Another thing to talk about is how do we basically classify people as living in poverty, because it is not what you think. You hear the word poverty and you think it means one thing, and it means something completely different in this kind of conversation that we're having in terms of statistics. Poverty is not the same thing as what you think it is intuitively from the word. But
this is a great country to be poor in, by the way.
It's the best country to be poor in.
Complain
It sure
about
as
being
hell
poor
is.
on your iPhone.
Well, it's like the reason I can tell you the reason
That
why
is the
Joe
wrong
Manchin voted against it. Our largest employer as of right now in West Virginia is Walmart. You make minimum wage go to $15 an hour.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, Walmart goes away.
Yeah.
And we're already strapped to have people have jobs here to begin with.
Their economics don't work anymore because that is a low margin, high volume business. And believe me, fixed price, holy shit. You up their fixed prices, their economic model shifts completely. I could talk for 2 hours about
If you
that.
cannot afford to pay your employees $15 an hour, maybe you shouldn't be in business. That is their argument.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Okay. Now that I have the correct article,
Bullshit.
it's
a freaking
U.S.
laser.
Army testing machine gun style laser weapon that vaporizes targets.
I thought it said Democrats.
Now this is the part that's fun to me, because when I saw this article, I thought, shouldn't that say U.S. Navy? This seems like it should say U.S. Navy. And as I'm looking at this article, it actually says credit John F. Williams, U.S. Navy futurism. Okay, so we have an article about an Army laser showing a picture of a Navy laser. Okay, never mind.
Okay.
Don't think about it too much, Harry.
No, it was developed at the Navy Research Laboratory. The technology was actually developed at the Navy at NRL. I'm almost positive if this is what I think it is.
The departments paying for it are the Army. Railguns are what the Navy is paying for.
Yeah, railguns have a direct shipboard application.
Yeah, totally.
No, these are absolutely. I find this to be absolutely fascinating, because all weapons is a means of transferring energy from some device to someone you want to kill or something you want to blow up.
A targeted location,
It's just a means of energy transfer. Now, if we ever have a conversation about missile defense or something, you will hear me go on ad nauseum about charged energy weapons and other things. The problem with those is that the Earth's magnetic field can affect the trajectory that it makes, and also the plasma that it forms as it passes through the atmosphere can cause trouble. But lasers are pretty freaking awesome. I mean, a laser does what you want it to do. You point, you click, and it delivers its energy right where it's supposed to.
And
almost
the microwave,
effectively instantaneously.
Yeah.
yes,
because on
and the
ships
microwave-based
you have,
ones that they're using there There's no beam. It's not like science fiction where you see a laser bolt or a plasma blast or something like that. It's completely invisible. All you see is your target lighting up.
By the way, that's
Okay.
true of most lasers in
Yep.
in daylight. I've
Yep.
worked with lasers quite a bit, and you don't see them unless you. We used to make smoke boxes and actually light cigarettes and
Yep.
blow smoke into them so we could see
Yeah,
the
the
beam.
closest you'd get, Skep, is a particle thrower that ejects plasma. So it's still very much like a traditional firearm. There's still an ammunition, a bolt being fired, but this one is just charged plasma as opposed. But yeah, the laser weapons, you won't see them coming. They're fantastic to watch in action.
Well, yeah, there's microwave lasers, there's X-ray lasers, there's lasers that function at all kinds of different wavelengths. Anything where your wave particle stuff starts to get kind of in that range where it becomes really useful. You know, you want
Yep.
something with a bit of energy behind it.
That's the thing.
But,
All you have is energy. These are 100% energy. They're not
Yep.
not a lot of mass.
Yeah. So the deal here is that when you hit metal with a laser pulse, it creates a cloud of ionized metal, and that is actually extremely reflective. So the purpose, I mean, without even looking at the article, I can tell you this has been true for like 20 plus years. The reason you want you want that machine gun like effect is basically cause damage, cloud disperses from the impact spot, cause more damage, cloud disperses, cause more damage. So you have to basically pulse the weapon otherwise you're just wasting energy because the reflection from the cloud of debris
Disperses the laser.
keeps it from causing more damage to the base material. But anyway, enough of my exposition. The new weapon called the Tactical Ultra Short Pulsed Laser for Army Platforms is expected to be about 1 million times stronger than any other laser weapon out there. This, again, also deceptive. The reason they're saying it's 1 million times stronger is because the pulses are 1 million times stronger, but the amount of energy deposit over time is not going to be 1 million times stronger. This is just marketing bullshit.
So is
Yeah.
this
If it was 1 million times stronger, it would have the effect of a nuclear weapon.
so is this
Pretty much.
It would ignite the atmosphere.
is it a solid state laser then?
Well, I'm
Because
pretty
that's
sure
the
it's not
one-
a gas tube.
Well, no. The USS Portland in May released a video of them taking a drone down with a solid state laser.
That's not
Most
a pulse
of the
laser,
lasers
though.
now
Yeah,
are solid
I know.
state,
Well,
the
yeah,
big ones.
yeah. I was just curious.
Except for the
because
excimer lasers, where you need a nuclear charge to detonate it.
and
That's
other
another-
slight deviation. The UK is working on a 50 kilowatt laser weapon system called Dragonfire, and
Nice.
Russia and China are both working on energy weapons as well as India, Iran, and Turkey.
They haven't created anything good since
Well,
the
I know.
longbow.
Yeah, well, the thing is like we're right now still ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, by miles. By
Yeah.
miles.
Yeah. Let's
But I
see,
thought-
EMP, all this good stuff. Anyway, so the Army's got a laser. Pew pew. I love it. Lasers are really
It's a
interesting.
freaking
The
laser.
way that they work really fascinates me.
Yes.
I'm easy. You know, it doesn't take much to impress me because when I was a little kid, I desperately wanted a laser more than pretty much anything else. And I actually tried growing a crystal with a bunch of chromium ions in it to
I
make
love
my own
that.
laser from scratch.
Good for you.
And then the solid state lasers came out, and I remember reading the catalogs like, I'm just a little kid. I don't have $50 to buy a laser diode. Damn it, you know, because they only came in one color. It was
Yeah.
solid state lasers were like the best thing ever because
Yeah.
the ones that came before that were so inefficient. But
Did your new roof come with a laser?
the gas lasers actually that they use for welding and stuff are still pretty damn good. Those big infrared welding lasers.
Mhm.
Anyway, enough
I
of
got
me
the
talking about
I got
lasers.
I got to work with a helium neon laser when I was in high school. This was back in the 18th century.
And that was a big deal.
That was a big. We went to Melpar, and they were a Beltway bandit. They were a top secret defense contractor and all that stuff. And they let us play with their lasers, and it was absolutely awesome. And we got really good getting the lasers just to laze. That was what my friend Tim May and I became experts at, and we were the laser adjustment weasels for Melpar. The unpaid intern laser adjustment guys. And when they get a little bit out of alignment, man, Tim and I knew just exactly what to do to put those things back in trim. It was awesome. It was one of the greatest summers of my life.
Yeah, no, I had a book, Furry Kitten. Thank you very much. I had a book from Scientific American on how to make your own lasers. And they had a whole list of articles, and so they had plans for how to basically take the transformer from a neon sign, like one of those neon bar signs, and make a nitrogen pulse laser out of it.
Yeah.
Super, super cool stuff. Now, my friend Steve, who you did we had a book stream, and he was
Right.
on a long time ago.
Right.
He and a friend of his borrowed a laser from Spectrophysics here in the Valley, and he was at his friend's place, and there was these people that had a house up on a hill not too far away, but far away, and they used to run around sort of naked in their house. So they started bouncing laser beams off things inside their house to freak them out. Next thing you know, the drapes were closed and making friends. Let's see.
Giggity.
Where was I? Well, you know. Sometimes people get a little too comfortable in their own skin. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, evidently.
All right. Let's see. Where are we now?
It was a hot time in the
Perseverance.
summer of
NASA's
'76.
Perseverance rover. We will be checking in on Perseverance every time something new and interesting happens. But this is just a brief update about.
Did they move their
Perseverance.
arm?
No, they actually took it for a spin.
Did they really? Okay, I didn't.
Yeah,
I-
NASA's Perseverance rover is on a roll for the first time ever. In its first tentative steps on the red planet, the truck-sized robot rolled forward from its landing spot 13 feet, 4 meters, then turned in place 150 degrees to the left, backed up 8 feet, 2.5 meters, and took the above image in its track of its tracks on the Martian surface. So, yeah,
Look what I can
that's
do.
good. Yeah, no, it's pretty awesome.
That's just raw engineering genius.
Yeah,
That
let's see.
really, truly is it. That's the shizzle.
All 6 of the rover's wheels are powered, technically making it a 6-wheel drive vehicle. You know, other countries, they don't even have 6-wheel drive vehicles on Mars. Just saying. It has
Yeah.
a top speed of 1/100th of 1 mile per hour. That's 0.16 kilometers per hour, shockingly making it a hot rod amongst Mars rovers. They're trying to move something the size of a truck that's powered off of solar panels.
Right.
You're not going to go anywhere fast. This isn't going to be like a moon buggy.
No.
Yeah.
Falling
So-
down a ravine, maybe.
Well, it's,
Yeah,
it's
we
still
don't
for
even
the
want to
long
think
haul.
about what that gear ratio probably is, just to get that,
No
just to
kidding.
get that speed.
Yeah, that's actually true.
It's like a little tiny motor and a whole series of gears.
Gears.
Reduction
Absolutely.
drive.
Reduction
This is
drive,
an
right.
expansion drive.
It's reverse reduction gears.
Actually,
exactly.
it would be a reduction drive because I'm sure that motor's probably wants to spin at around
Oh,
1,500 RPMs.
Yeah, it wants to
and,
go really fast. It just doesn't have a lot of oomph to it.
Yeah. So they reduce it down to just
You
this
need-
incredible
yeah, mechanical
low pace.
advantage that's provided by many gears.
Well, this makes the little helicopter thing make a lot more sense because when you're moving at that speed, having a better idea of where you want to go is pretty darn important.
Well, yeah.
Every centimeter counts.
You,
Yeah.
well, you can
Yeah.
spend 5 days getting to some place to say, "Oh, we got to back up," and having a helicopter out there to scout the place out that really does. It makes all kinds of sense. I can't wait till they fly that thing.
Yeah, that's going to be really awesome. We
It
will
really
definitely
will
be
be.
talking about that.
Yeah, and projects like this are in for the long haul. We're not going to see, we're not going to get scientific gratification like that. It's going to take some time for them to get things sorted. I'm sure this is part of their test of, okay, when we program his route, everything's working, blah, blah, blah. Because they just started releasing the some of the, not findings, but what they actually obtained from the Hayabusa mission. And that was what, almost a decade in the making now.
It says, we can really drive 5 times faster than Curiosity, 200 meters per Martian day. Perseverance mobility testbed engineer Aeneas Zaffarin told reporters Friday, explaining that the rover's navigation system processes images from its cameras faster. That makes sense because there's actually a pretty decent delay, speed of light wise, between us and Mars. You really can't just sit there with a PS4 controller and drive this thing in real time. What's the distance? It's like 20 light minutes or something.
Oh, right now,
Yeah, on average.
it's on the order of 20 minutes. 20 minutes is what you always see in movies, but I think right now it's the 18 minutes sticks in my mind, but I don't know why. It may be something from curiosity.
Well, the moon is 3 light seconds, as I recall.
I know it's 230 million kilometers away.
But the fact that it essentially is like a self-driving
math.
vehicle, we give it a course, but it's smart enough that it can go, oh, I'm going to end up in destination fucked if I do what I'm told to do. Sort of talk about Aussie man, and we don't want perseverance in destination fucked.
Mars comes between 3.11 minutes when it's closest to Earth to 22.4 minutes, and right now I think it's about 18 minutes. Right now. No, I'm sorry. 12 minutes. 12 minutes. 12 minutes is what I mean. I did the math wrong. 12 minutes is it.
But this is wonderful. I really do like this. It's so nice to be back on Mars with a new mission and better cameras. I think in terms of inspiring a new generation of people, this is going to be a good thing. Because when people talk about space, it's really easy to talk about Teflon and wire wrap and just all of the things that we got out of the Apollo program. But I think in a lot of ways, the real benefit to something like that is the generations of new scientists that you get out of it.
Yes.
Sorry.
The ones you inspire.
No, it's just sappy here.
You inspire people and it brings them along, and that's how the next generation got inspired. They saw men on the moon. They saw spacecraft going to the outer reaches of the galaxy. Who knows what New Horizons, the satellite that took pictures of Pluto, will inspire. I mean, that to me is just pretty damn awesome. Yeah. I mean, if anybody wants to drill down a little bit and look at the engineering that it took to time the photographs as it went by Pluto so that the message would get there at the right time to snap the pictures.
Well,
that was not automated.
Planet. Well, there was a minor planet that they flew by. I can't remember the name. It had a particularly ridiculous name. But that flyby was even more challenging, and the results were staggering.
Yes.
Pluto was easy by comparison.
But still, it's awesome.
It is absolutely awesome. I never fail. Well, I rarely, am disappointed in the planetary science people because people do talk about, we should go to Mars and set up colonies and we're going to terraform. I heard that today. I don't remember where. They're talking about terraforming. It's like
that's perfectly reasonable.
No, there's a reason why Mars is the way it is right now. And you going there and trying to undo what already happened to it is going to be just like a fart in a tornado. It's not going to be. You're not going. You cannot just rebuild the Martian atmosphere for reasons of basic physics.
All we have to do is pour some metal into the middle and heat up the metal and get the metal spinning, and then there'll be a magnetic field, and we got it from there.
Yeah, I could have changed the laws of physics, Cotton.
Yeah, it would be nice though, just to put them there as the volunteers and go. Bye.
Well, we have a magnetic field article coming up after this, but maybe the two most awesome words ever put together are these. Was it space hurricane? Functional sent this to me. Yep. Do you want to talk about this space hurricane?
Here I am. Okay, so this really kind of blew my mind and really got the nerd juices flowing because this is something that we've never even knew existed, never observed before in recorded history, nothing like that. and it relates to sort of what I've brought up previously with magnetic fields, space time, the push and pull of the universe. So what happened was our magnetic field I'm drawing a blank at the word, in concert with extrasolar gravity patterns, which means gravity that is created by celestial bodies outside of our solar system, created the, pardon the pun, perfect storm to allow space plasma, radiation, and cause this tornado in our atmosphere, or this hurricane in our atmosphere. And this is just an artist's impression, but it wasn't that far off. What's really cool about the hurricane is that it spun in the same way as our planet spins. This happened at the North Pole, over one of the poles, but the direction is anti-clockwise, and that's the way that the planet was spinning. And so that helped it give it its sort of shape and start the cone at the bottom, and with the pull and push of the extrasolar gravity allowed for what basically happens in our atmosphere when you do have a hurricane, and caused this sort of tidal pull that created the hurricane. And it's really, really cool because now this gives us an even greater understanding of potentially these kinds of phenomena could happen out in other Earth-like planets, helping us to identify where we might find similar phenomena like Earth, whether it be carbon-based life or atmosphere, oxygen, nitrogen atmospheres. This thing was huge. It was 1,000 kilometers. Crazy. Cool stuff.
So hold on. So the
Yes.
sun emits highly energetic charged particles. And that is basically the solar wind. So it's like a bunch
Yes.
of alpha radiation basically heading our way. A bunch of ionized, because since the sun is, the photosphere is all this plasma, right? So charged particles, we have an abundance of those. And basically when the sun burps, it can come straight at us. Now those charged particles are the solar wind. Earth has a magnetic field because it has a molten iron core, which is rotating, which gives it basically creates a little dynamo, which gives Earth its wonderful magnetic field, which in theory protects us from most of the bad stuff that arrives from space to kill us in the form of, cosmic rays and that sort of thing. So these particles from the solar wind are being captured by Earth's magnetic field, and they're picking up rotation because of the curl of the Earth's magnetic field and the rotation of the Earth.
That's what they surmised because of the way that it spun, or the direction the particles
And
traveled.
this was at magnetic north, not geographic north.
Yes. So the bottom of the quote unquote, as we see it, the bottom of the planet. But that it's not just Earth's magnetic field,
No, it'd
because
be the
like I
top.
said, it's the
northern polar ionosphere.
No, the Earth's magnetic field was accelerating the charged particles in the upper atmosphere, creating this effect.
but it couldn't have done that by itself. It had the gravity and other background radiation, not just the solar radiation, to create this perfect storm and create this event. It's more than just two factors. There were several factors that came into play that they theorized just created this. It's a rare phenomenon, but
So we've seen this exactly one time.
yes, this is the very first time.
Okay, so here's a diagram. Scrolling down is good.
Yeah, that's a good
You have
Good
orange
little
arrows
depiction.
going around a purple thing, and then lines with arrows in them.
That's good color commentary, Skep.
Well, it's basically the top one showing you basically, very boiled down the directions things were traveling. The bottom one is really good because it shows you the blue lines that are traveling on top are like Earth's magnetic pull, magnetic field, and then the sort of pinky purple lines that are going over top are like magnetic. The IMF, the interplanetary magnetic field. So that's the force of push and pull between celestial bodies.
Okay, this isn't really a space hurricane. This is a space tornado. Because actually, looking at this diagram, they're saying that the direction of the interplanetary magnetic field, you know, because as the Earth and our whole solar system basically pass through space, is basically, it's almost like a crosswind in terms of the evolution of a tornado.
Yes. That's why I keep calling it a tornado, because it really is
It's
just
a
a...
cyclone.
It really is a space tornado.
Cyclone is probably the safest term,
Yeah.
since
And again, it's just a perfect recipe
hurricanes
of...
are cyclones, so so are tornadoes.
Well, this is freaking cool. I hope we don't get too many of these. These sound dangerous.
I don't think we can. Again, it's because of the specific interplay of the IMF and the Earth's magnetic field with all the gases, the material, the coronal ejections, everything came together in just one perfect...
Yeah, the solar winds
Thing.
are particularly light, which is what helps form hurricanes aloft, is very light winds. Aloft will allow the low pressure to develop on Earth, you know, when hurricanes form. And
Hey, Geodes.
Yo. Hi, Jones.
Hey,
Hey.
Geodes.
Plus, I think Space Hurricane has a better... It rolls off the tongue better than Space Tornado.
No, tornadoes are way cooler than hurricanes as a complete.
I like Hurricane as a word better.
I mean, as much as I like watching Jim
Space.
Cantori get
Hurricane.
blown over when he's covering hurricanes, I have a real thing for tornadoes. It's a real weakness of mine.
I would like to see Dan Rather in a tornado.
Yeah,
In one. In the middle of it.
I'll
see
get
if
you,
this
my
link is
pretty.
broken. No, this
And your
link
little
is
dog,
actually working.
too.
Well, while we're talking about magnetic fields, you know, this solar wind we're talking about is a real problem if you're, say, Mars and you don't have as much iron and radioactive things in your core, and then it cools down and your atmosphere mostly blows off. You can't terraform Mars. Just stop.
No.
It doesn't
You have to do
have a
something
magnetic
about-
field to protect
You have to do
us.
something about the You have to do something about the magnetic field, but that's actually the easy thing. That's the easy piece. The hard piece is you have to make Mars more massive.
Just nuke the core.
You have to deal with Mars being too small, and gravity is a thing.
We were going to send Stephanie Abrams.
Like I said, nuke the core. Just send
Yeah.
Stacey.
I don't know that a
middle
black hole is the answer.
Well, that's why you have the nuke strapped to her.
It's an interesting approach.
There's nothing the Abramopotamits can't do.
Oh.
All right. So here, magnetic fields are fun, part 2. Ancient Tree tells chaotic tale of Earth's magnetic field reversal. Now, some background on this. The Earth's magnetic field has a tendency, on average, about every 50,000 years to have the north and south poles flip. Now, this doesn't happen instantaneously. There's a period in between the realignment where you end up with a lot of miniature north and south magnetic poles spread all around the planet. Now, if you happen to be near one of those, that's awesome because it will protect you from the solar radiation. But if you're not near one of those, if you're in sort of one of the wastelands in between, life is not terribly good. Now, we know about this because if you look at undersea fissures, where magma is essentially coming up and then plates are moving further apart, as the magma cools, it captures... basically, when molten iron is molten, it doesn't really align with any kind of magnetic field. As it cools and the iron crystallizes internally, you see domains of it that will basically be frozen in place with the same orientation as the magnetic field lines of the Earth. So by looking at samples of freshly made rock on the ocean floor and looking as you move away from this thing, you can actually chart how often and how frequently and for what period of time these magnetic field realignments take place. That's the record that we have, but this is some new and extremely cool data. I think Prospero, you sent this to me, didn't you?
Liquid hot magma.
Yeah, and I mean, I read it the day it came out. So
Yeah.
don't
So,
ask.
well, the
Don't
thing is,
ask an
tree
old
rings are
lady's
really
memory.
useful for all sorts of things because we know they're 1 year apart, and we use tree rings to study a lot of stuff.
They are.
You know, it,
Dendrochronology is complicated by lots of factors.
yes, it is.
Rainfall in a
Weather
particular year
It's a thing.
will have an enormous impact
Absolutely.
on tree rings. It's one of the reasons why Michael Mann's hockey stick theory, where they used dendrochronology, was fucked. Because they didn't have any dendrochronologists helping them out. They were using tree rings.
Well,
as
they did absolutely no allowances for weather.
No, they did none at all. They were
Pushing a narrative, is what it was.
Yeah, they were acting as if it is a fixed metric inside
Yeah,
a
yeah.
tree, and it's not. And
And they put ceteris paribus in their paper. They said, we assume these other things are equal. The problem is they're never equal.
No, they weren't, and they didn't. I mean, I think it was 5 dendrochronologists that Mark Stein cited in his 100 Scientists
Holes
book
you could drive a truck through.
Yeah, and they were very upset because there was no allowance for weather, drought, changes, trees, excessive rainfall changes trees, all kinds of factors. I mean, it's just like Michael Mann missed the medieval warming period.
Mm-hmm.
He missed fundamentals of dendrochronology.
It's
But
bad
that's
science
okay.
is terrible.
Well, that's okay.
That's true.
The UN just grabbed that shit right up and ran with it.
Oh, it
Well, you have to
supported their
grab
narrative.
the answer if it corresponds to what you want it to be.
Well, that's it. We're
Exactly.
suffering.
But you brought up an
consequences.
interesting thing just a second ago, Harry. You talked about polarity. And it's an interesting thing. Do you know whether the north magnetic pole of the Earth is a north polarity or a south polarity? And I'll give you a hint. Why do compasses point to the north?
Do I know whether
Because
it's
the north
actually a
magnetic
north polarity?
pole, the north magnetic pole is actually a south polarity. Now, that when it switches again, it will be a north polarity. And our compasses, the way they're made, will point south.
Well, that's true, definitely.
Yep. Absolutely true.
Well, it sounds like we misnamed the magnets. We should have just it
Put the
sounds like we
magnet on
just
the other
screwed up
side.
we screwed up the definitions. We should have decided that north corresponded to north.
Yes. Yeah, we basically had a 50-50 chance of getting it right. We got it wrong.
Those bastards.
There might be
Well,
a reason
let's take
that
a
all the
quick
old
look at
maps
this.
said here be dragons.
Let's take a quick look at this article. A perfectly preserved ancient tree fossil has offered scientists a unique peek into a moment 42,000 years ago when the Earth's magnetic field went haywire. The impressive study paints a picture of temporary environmental chaos, potentially influencing everything from an increase in cave paintings to the extinction of Neanderthals. The Neanderthals were how do you say this? They were
A nascent TV show.
yeah. This is a certain amount of let's make science sound sexy. This extinction of
there
Neanderthals.
is a
You
lot-
don't have
there-
you know.
There's a lot wrong with this article.
Well, cave paintings has nothing to do with Neanderthals.
No. I mean, it's everything from an increase in cave paintings to the extinction of Neanderthals.
I know. There's an implied kind of. These are
Oh,
roughly
really?
equivalent.
Okay, I didn't
get the implication
I
either.
didn't get it either.
Not that the Neanderthals did it, but just having it in the same sentence to most laymen, they'll equate that.
Well,
Oh, well, I screwed up. I was off by an order of magnitude. I think it must be 500,000 years between magnetic field reversals. It says the last major geomagnetic reversal occurred 780,000 years ago, and plenty of scientists suggest we are overdue for a similar event, because that's how probability works. In between these full geomagnetic reversals, which can last up to 10,000 years, we find shorter disruptions to the Earth's magnetic field. These events are known as geomagnetic excursions. Ooh. Geomagnetic excursions are short-lived. It's kind of like being a lesbian in college. Okay, never mind. Geomagnetic excursions are short-lived and involve temporary changes to the Earth's magnetic field lasting anywhere from a few hundred to a few thousand years. The most recent recorded geomagnetic excursion is known as the Leschamps excursion, and it took place about 42,000 years ago. The Leschamps excursion was the last time the magnetic poles flipped, explained some dude. Co-author of a landmark new study investigating this transformative event. Okay, laying on a bit thick there, people.
yeah, they are.
They swapped for about 800 years before changing their minds and swapping back again. You were going to say Prospero?
No, I said they are. I didn't say that this was the greatest science ever.
No, making fun of the articles is half the fun. It doesn't have to be great. It just
Look at
has
the
to be entertaining.
size of that log.
There is
Scientists have, got wood. Scientists have known about these dramatic magnetic pole events for a long time, but it's never been clearly understood what kind of impact they have on life or the environment. That is until a few years ago when an ancient fossilized tree was discovered in New Zealand. Workers preparing a site for a new power plant unearthed a massive something tree trunk. Kauri, perfectly preserved for 42,000 years with its rings offering an incredible 1,700-year record of the Earth's environmental conditions exactly spanning the period of the Leschamps excursion. For the first time ever, okay, there's a lot of first times here. This is starting to piss me off. Let's see, using the ancient tree, we would measure and date the spike in atmospheric radiocarbon levels caused by the collapse of the Earth's magnetic fields. Why would radiocarbon levels spike? Because, oh, yes.
In a
Okay,
bowl.
because everything was fucked.
Yeah, basically.
Caught on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Life, the universe, and
kind of
everything.
lines up. This is a whole lot of fluffy foof to make everybody feel happy and
But Prospero is a bold new study.
Yeah.
yeah.
Early
it's-
humans around the world would have seen amazing auroras, shimmering veils, and sheets across the sky.
While
It's
their
like
skin
Damnation
burned.
Alley. It must have seemed like the end of days, a concept that they would not have understood. Handprints in red ochre, which may have been used in ancient times of a form of sunscreen, are a common cave art motif. The center of this cave art from Spain is believed to be almost 42,000 years ago. I don't know. I think there's a
it's
lot
the hypothetical.
going on here.
There are a lot of things going on. They're talking about the things that would have occurred during this, and they're making a lot of interesting hypotheses. That's all. There is some time concurrence to some of our mega species disappearing as well.
Do you think that the magnetic field disruption led to an influx of cave art?
Well, what they're talking about is because of the increased UV radiation.
Yeah, that they needed to seek shelter. They got
peop-
bored, and so they painted
Yeah.
the caves.
Well,
I think more of it would have been erotic art if that had been the case.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Yeah. Good times.
He always
So,
paints himself bigger than he really is.
Yeah. You always draw yourself with a giant dawn. I don't know why that strikes me as so
I hate you, fag.
They'll identify a whole new age and just call it the Priapic age.
Neanderthal
sheltering in
lives
place.
matter.
I don't know why that strikes me as funny. Probably because I'm.
Gary
I
Larson.
don't know what's wrong with me. That's the subject for another show.
Gary Larson.
Okay. This just came in, I believe, this afternoon. And who sent this to me? Was this you, Prospero?
Was I?
That was Dr. Functional. Octopus-like. While we're busy, if you're looking for sort of midwit level analysis, I always like to turn to Big Think. But there might actually be something about this, because Europa is a pretty damn fascinating place.
Yep.
A
Yeah,
leading
yeah.
British space scientist thinks there is life under the ice sheets of Europa. Yeah, insofar as it has a liquid environment underneath there, yeah. Europa is a really, really fascinating moon.
Wasn't it? Is it Jupiter's moons, or is it one of
Yes.
the other planets' moons? That those are the ones that everybody thinks
wait,
we're going to
no,
be able to
it's
terraform and actually inhabit. I know it's not
No.
Europa. I know it's not that
I
one.
think
but
it's Titan you're thinking of, maybe?
yeah, that's
Yeah,
what it is. That's what it is. I was
Jupiter's
thinking
And
it
it
was,
basically
is-
a failed star.
Yeah.
So there, it's actually through gravitational collapse putting off enough infrared to warm some of those things up. So it's not as inhospitable as it sounds. Unfortunately, where we have Van Allen radiation belts,
Yes.
Jupiter has something way, way, way worse.
yeah.
And
It's
you have to be
definitely
very
cold
careful
molecular.
what you stay away from.
Well, it's
Yeah.
like, and the thing is, like, I understand why we need to go to Mars, because we need a jumping off point to go to Titan. But I'm more interested when we start doing more studies of Titan and stuff like that.
But we
When
can
that
totally
happens.
go to Mars. We're just not going to terraform it.
Oh, I know-
we can
I know,
do a
that's what I'm
lot
saying, though,
with
but we need-
domes and things. I mean, we can.
We
certainly
need an
set up
emergency
an
stop
environment.
station or a filling station or just a place for people to just chill before they
We
do
have
the
a
final
better
push
shot
to
of
Titan.
terraforming Venus than we would Mars, and that's the truth.
Yeah, no, Venus
The-
has got the stuff we can work with.
Yeah, I could have that whipped into shape about 2 years.
One theory I always liked was the idea of like trying to get an asteroid kind of cycling that could be hollowed out and then kind of used as like a living quarters effectively. As
Yeah, but the problem is that
Giant space toboggan.
if you get tapped just a tiny minuscule little tiny bit, you get thrown off course. You're screwed.
yeah, so you need to have a way to do like some kind of course correction.
Oh yeah.
David Brin wrote a book. I think it was Heart of the Comet. And
Yep,
David
Heart of the
Brin was a working scientist before he became
Sure was.
full-time science fiction writer. And it's an interesting book for a whole variety of reasons. The part where he talks about what ends up happening culturally in this disconnected community that we're basically riding a comet all the way out and back. The social stuff, I think, is almost more interesting than his stab at the science, because I definitely see some kinds of parallels. You know, humans are really, really interesting. But Heart of the Comet's actually a really interesting book. But it's difficult writing on a thing that's disintegrating.
Yeah.
And as far as like an asteroid goes, I know space is mostly empty, but there's an awful lot of ways that you can have a bad time on a big ball that's hurtling through space that you can't control its trajectory.
Well, there's on a similar path. Sorry, there is a movie. I think it's out of Sweden. I think that's where it's from, called Aniara, that kind of talks about that. It is a depressing as fuck movie. So don't watch it if you're in a depressive state. But it's a really good movie about space travel and what happens like if you lose fuel and you're on a specific path and you can't go off of it, and how basically an entire spaceship full of the normal people just disintegrates into insanity and stuff like that. Sorry, I had to bring that up.
All right, well, let's take a quick gander at what Professor Monica Grady seems to think here. Europa, sixth largest moon in the solar system, yada, yada, yada. There's basically oceans under the miles of ice, but they're not water oceans. Just
Yeah,
Well,
not.
FYI.
Hold up. I want to stop you from reading the article because it is too much fluff. There's a lot that it actually just flat out gets wrong. So first of all, we think that there's water beneath the ice. We don't have any proof yet, but it stands to reason because as we were just talking about, Harry, I believe you mentioned Earth's magnetic core, that Europa actually has a thin oxygen atmosphere, too thin for us to survive on. But what's amazing about Europa is that it has a magnetic field strong enough to protect it and potentially us from Jupiter's radiation.
Well, the ice also helps, but the other
The-
thing
the
it
ice
needs, the other thing you need here
But-
for this to work is you need a power source.
Well,
that
that's
power
what
source
I was
is
getting
usually
to.
underwater geothermal type stuff, like the vents that we
Exactly.
have on the bottom of the Earth's floor.
So
There's
that's
whole
why we
different
can
types of life
extrapolate.
there.
That's why we can extrapolate. So it's got this magnetic field, so it's got to have heat at the center of the core that's causing these geothermal events, and that is the perfect breeding ground for life. However, with this article, what she's basically saying is, yeah, sure, there's almost certainly microbial life, but if there were more complex life forms under the sheets of Europa in the oceans, it would be probably more akin to giant squid.
Well, if we would just find out that you can either have sex with it or it's delicious to eat, I'm sure we'd have
It'll
a mission
probably be
to
delicious.
instantaneously.
Get the Japanese on that.
We'll send the Japanese. The Japanese
It'll probably
will send a space probe to Europa.
Well, it'll probably
to
be
find delicious new forms of sushi.
Because the
I was
gravity is
fucking it, but okay, yeah, sure, go with that one.
it's one.
Have you
one
tried?
point-
Have you tried the calamari from Europa yet?
Well, the gravity is just over 1.3 of that of Earth standard gravity, so you would get a thicker, spongier meat more akin to like steak or pork than you would, terrestrial octopus or something. So yeah, that sounds delicious to me.
As long as it's not floating in
Science.
methane, it should be fine. Because these people who don't like ammonia clean chicken are certainly not going to like this.
So contact was just
Chlorine,
alien
chlorine.
propaganda to stop the Japanese from going to Europa.
Exactly.
And having sex with Jodie Foster's dead dad. Yeah. Anyway,
Ew.
moving on.
Yeah, some yuck.
We were talking in a previous show about the joys of using closed source software because it's the most secure software because hackers don't know what the source code looks like. Therefore, it's impenetrable. Wrong.
Wrong.
That is absolutely wrong. Hackers have been exploiting the Exchange server's vulnerabilities since January. Microsoft Exchange is basically one of the more common email systems for just about every enterprise, and the government uses it.
Yes.
And they use it for a whole variety of reasons, mostly because it lets you tie in with databases and systems that are, like Active Directory in ways that make it convenient. Essentially, you don't have to do a lot of sort of custom administration for this. You just tie it in with your domain and give Microsoft a pile of money, and you have nothing to worry about, except 4 exploits found in Microsoft's Exchange server software have led to some 30,000 U.S. government and commercial organizations, including police departments, hospitals, and nonprofits, having their emails hacked. Microsoft rolled out a patch to fix 4 zero-day exploits in Exchange Server a few days ago, but that hasn't stopped a hacking group from taking advantage of the situation. A zero-day exploit is basically where the hackers are in a race with the antivirus people type of thing and the security people to exploit a weakness before people can put out effective countermeasures or like a signature to identify the virus, that type of thing. That's what a zero-day exploit is.
Tell you an interesting thing about Exchange
Go.
Server. As recently as 2002, I was on a consulting gig, and I mentioned the fact that Exchange Server sent user passwords in plain text inside of packets. And I was challenged on this by the head of the IT at the huge bank, whose name every person would know here, that I was doing a consulting gig with. And they said, no, it doesn't. I said, yes, it does. I said, send an email. I've got a sniffer right here on your Exchange server, and I will tell you your password. He sent the email. I opened up the packet, disassembled the packet load, opened up the packet, looked at his password, wrote it down on a piece of paper, folded it up, and handed it to him. He went absolutely pale in front of me. That was what, 18 years ago, and they were still using plain text to send their passwords on the wire. Now, I know they've changed that since then. I know they have heavy-duty encryption since then. But that's typical of Microsoft. They don't do anything about a problem until it's a problem. They're very poor at proactively solving things. They really, truly are.
They don't have to be. They have government contracts.
And very little competition because too many people are happy with Windows. So that's why it's one of the things that makes me sympathetic with Unix.
Yeah, no, this having worked on my company's mail server today, dealing with an encryption-related problem.
Funny
Basically, I had locked out. I wouldn't allow it to negotiate an encrypted connection with systems using inferior forms of encryption, and that caused a problem for one of my customers. Oh well. So anyway. Yeah, that's actually true. As far as Microsoft goes, they do rely very heavily on the Microsoft Mystique, and they do rely very heavily on the fact that it's incredibly expensive to replace them, much less so than it used to be. There are definitely alternatives to this sort of stuff now. But at the core of a lot of this Microsoft stuff is Active Directory, which is really just, God, you're going to hate me for this. It's a series of technologies they've co-opted. They've embraced and extended something called Kerberos and something else called LDAP. And LDAP is a directory server, and it's because it gives people an easy means of managing their organization through a directory server that people keep paying money for this broken crap.
Okay.
Though I digress.
Back up to 20,000 feet.
Yeah. So yes, according to Microsoft, the vulnerability and exchange server are targeted by a previously unknown Chinese hacking group known as hafnium, which is a fine radioactive element.
It certainly is.
In the days since Microsoft issued the patch for Exchange, the group is said to have dramatically doubled up its efforts targeting unpatched servers around the world and accessing the accounts of some 30,000 U.S. organizations. Those are said to include local governments, banks, credit unions, police departments, hospitals, nonprofits. In each instance, the intruders left behind a web shell, an easy-to-use, password-protected hacking tool that can be accessed over the internet from any browser. The web shell gives the attackers administrative access to the victim's computer servers. About the only good thing I can say about this silver lining is people usually are smart enough not to run their mail server on the same platform as other things that are even more important. But this is still really terrible, because if you can degrade security, get people's passwords, that gives you a foot in the door to hacking something even larger. Every hack is just a means of moving on to the next hack.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
it's Geodes, you were about to say.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, one of the things that, like, with the announcement that Windows 10 is the last Windows operating system, effectively, it kind of makes me wonder if maybe what direction they're going to go next. Because I know that they're looking a lot more at Linux, which I'm kind of like, I don't think they'll end up doing that because it'll make too much software incompatible. But because of the Unix, or not the Unix, but the way that it would have to make things a lot more secure, would require basically a framework for every software to make it compatible. But I am kind of curious what they're going to be doing for their next iteration because of stuff like this. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you can attest to the fact that, I mean, of the organizations that you've dealt with, Exchange Server is pretty much a de facto standard for them, for commercial stuff and government. Yeah, everybody uses it.
Yeah, it's pretty much the most used type of server software that I can think of, except for maybe more like Linux distro software, which again, that's a bit high above my pay grade. So,
well, okay, at a lot of places that have like a diverse, heterogeneous shop in terms of OS and hardware, you will find that maybe the only thing that actually runs Windows in terms of the server infrastructure is going to be the mail server.
For the sole reason of being a life support system to Exchange.
Yeah, and it's being integrated in with Teams, and then Teams is trying to compete with Slack, and it's all very complicated. And full disclosure, I own stock in Microsoft. I bought it when the lockdown started because I knew they were going to make a killing because of so many people working remotely, and I've done quite well with it. But I still think this is pretty terrible.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't want to seem like a hypocrite, but, you know, Harry's got to pay the bills.
Yeah. Get Linux. Try it out. That's my last 2 cents.
Oh, Linux is fine. So speaking of something cool, and no pun intended, ORNL and BWXT, which is another organization, this is from the Office of Nuclear Energy, demonstrate new 3D printing process for high temperature materials. That looks cool. Oak Ridge National Laboratory and BWX Technologies recently developed a new way to manufacture and qualify parts and materials for high-temperature reactor applications. The successful demonstration builds on recent advancements in additive manufacturing and could lead to faster production of new reactor designs that would be more efficient and economical to produce. Now,
Neat.
without going into too much detail, this to me is freaking awesome. If we can basically
Yeah.
3D print reactor components, that's pretty damn fantastic. It'll certainly make the prototyping process a hell of a lot faster. So they successfully 3D printed core structural parts using a nuclear thermal propulsion system designs. The components were made from molybdenum, a refractory material that can be used in extreme temperatures. Working with ORNL researchers, BWXT used an electron beam melting system to print the intricate parts from molybdenum powder. Each layer, roughly a millimeter in length, was digitally captured during the process and used to qualify the components. Meaning they watched it being built and said, yeah, that looks good.
Do you know what the melting point of molybdenum is? 4,753 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
Kick ass.
That's 5,000 degrees.
Yep.
That's what they were fabricating, ladies and gentlemen. That's just kind of awesome, isn't it?
It is kind of awesome because, you know, your normal 3D printer doesn't really put out things that hold up quite that well. I realize this is probably more of a quiz stream type of topic to bring up, but I just thought it was too damn cool for its own sake. I couldn't really leave that alone.
Yeah.
That is really
awesome.
fucking
I
incredible.
love it.
So I'm inclined to sort of skip the last thing that I have planned because
I want to give that the attention it's due.
There's a few different things that that we could talk about, but you know what? They will all wait until next week. So if you guys are ready, I would like to sort of open the floor if there's any topics you guys would like to bring up.
Let me see.
Unexpected freedom from the control freak. I know I threw you all off.
And everyone froze.
There was a funny story kind of from my home state.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So my governor was discovered that she spent $13,500 on basically like takeout food and stuff, supposedly for her whole department and everything during this lockdown proceedings. I'm trying to see if I can find the story right now, but yeah, it like she ordered like high quality meat, alcohol, laundry, not laundry detergent, but like the detergent, like fabric, which I guess is used for like I guess keeping like different products clean. I'm not entirely sure. It was just one of those things where it's like, yeah, it was just bizarre looking at this shopping list. But she said it was for her whole cabinet. Although, yeah, again, it is all like really high priced stuff, and it's like, yep, good to know that you know, our taxpayer money during this time is going towards something very, very useful and productive. So
Well, that's lovely. There's also this fine thing that fell on my desk. BBC apologizes for interview with fake Cory Booker.
I remember this. Yeah, this is great.
This was back on the 2nd.
Ruh-roh.
I mean, as much as, you know, I'm not a big fan of the whole Baba Booey thing, but sometimes these radio people are just so full of it. It's kind of nice to prank them, I think.
I mean, the idea
Yes.
that the BBC didn't have anybody.
That's not Cory Booker. Shut up.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, okay, my
Maybe he
thing
identified.
with stuff like this is I try to understand when dumb things happen. I like to think, okay, so how did somebody decide this was an okay thing to do? There was a problem with a plane trying to take off at SFO about 15 years ago, and it was a Korean Airlines jet, I believe, and the landing gear collapsed, and nobody died. It wasn't terrible,
Oh,
but
no. It was you mean, are you talking about the plane that came in?
yeah,
For the hard, yeah, it was a hard landing.
yeah, for the hard landing, and then the KNTV in Oakland, somebody called them up saying they were from the NTSB, or maybe it was the
Where
FAA,
they were identifying.
and they gave them a fake list of names for the people who were in the crew. Bang Ding Ao, Wee Too Low,
Yes.
Some Ding Wong.
Yes.
I went
It
to
was
high
such
school
a
with
great
that guy.
thing. But they don't. The problem is they didn't bother to check. It's like, why don't you check? Why wouldn't you? I mean, they're not even applying the same level of scrutiny as an 80-year-old grandmother does when somebody calls up from the Department of Windows talking about their PC. There seems to be no critical thinking going on.
Glorious, isn't it?
Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah, that was the look on the faces of the reporters who had been handed that crap to read was priceless, because you could just see the penny drop while they were talking with this. Oh, we have the name of the flight crew that have been involved in this emergency. You know, it's the pilot's name is Some Ting Wong. You know, but you could just kind of see this with the Bam Ding Ao.
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
just,
I think Holy Fook was a good
Yeah.
one, a good tell as well.
yeah.
But like a pro, she read through that whole list. And then it was about, 5 minutes later they came back and said, oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we got.
Yes, that is the thing. I think these people are far too well trained, and they just, if they put something in front of them, they're newsreaders. Newsreaders got to read.
Shit, though,
Yeah.
it'd be nice. if
Any implied
newsreaders could
racism
think.
is KTVU's fault. I'm just telling you what happened in the news.
Yeah. Which is why they will be owned again and again with this kind of thing. Because
Yeah.
they don't have anybody who can read and think at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh, does anybody else have anything else they'd like to talk about? Anybody have any need to unburden themselves with anything that wasn't in the opening?
I do have a final word or two to say.
Please go right ahead. We'll start with you.
And this really pertains to us looking out to the stars. Man, getting ready to break away from this tiny little egg, this tiny little insignificant mote. And it comes from an Indian philosopher, a guy named V.S. Ramachandran. And he said, how can a 3-pound mass of jelly that you can hold in your palm imagine angels, contemplate the meaning of infinity, and even question its own place in the cosmos? Especially awe-inspiring is the fact that any single brain, including yours, is made up of atoms that were forged in the hearts of countless far-flung stars billions of years ago. These particles drifted for eons and light years until gravity and change brought them together here, now. These atoms now form a conglomerate, your brain, that can only ponder, not only ponder the very stars that gave it birth, but can also think about its own ability to think about and wonder about its own ability to wonder. With the arrival of humans, it has been said, the universe has suddenly become conscious of itself. This truly is the greatest mystery of all. I happen to agree with him.
We are star stuff.
I agree. Anybody who learns about thermodynamics, you look at the universe and you think, well, it's just going to become boring and uninteresting and random and shitty and dark. And then you look at something like consciousness, or just even any structure at all, and you see structure and sentience and all these things sort of arising out of nothing. And the question of why is there order as opposed to just chaos at all, even in something as simple as a snowflake, is absolutely fascinating. The angle of separation of the atoms in a water molecule change everything about the way the universe works. And then to have sentience be this emergent property is amazing. And then a sentience capable of the things that Skep was talking about, contemplating your own mortality or our place in the universe, which is so much bigger and vaster than we are that it's kind of hard to even describe. It is really amazing to me, and it's the kind of stuff that I like to think about as I'm relaxed at the end of the day, dozing off at night. That's the kind of thing that that I really enjoy. But anyway, enough about me. Anybody else have any final thoughts?
Yeah, just like it seems like Skep and I are on the same wavelength these last few months.
Is that why you're wearing the helmet?
That's why I'm protecting
I got a
myself
helmet.
from the mind control. They're in my brain. My quote is very similar. Ask 10 different scientists about the environment, population control, genetics, and you'll get 10 different answers. But there's one thing every scientist on the planet agrees on. Whether it happens in 100 years or 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years, eventually our sun will grow cold and go out. When that happens, it won't just take us. It'll take Marilyn Monroe, Lao Tzu, Einstein, Morobuto, Buddy Holly, Aristophanes, and all this was for nothing unless we go to the stars.
Or at least put a damn obelisk on the moon. Oh, wait, that's already been done.
Or terraform
No.
Mars.
And it doesn't really matter because in 1 billion years, the nuclear furnace in the center of the Earth will wind down to the point where the magnetic field collapse, and essentially the Earth will turn into Mars. So we've got about that long to get our shit together.
Much.
The sun turning into a red giant is the least of my concerns.
Yeah. No.
Anybody else with any final thoughts? I'm sorry I'm being so talkative tonight.
Al Gore says we're all.
How dare you on a talk show?
I know. Well, anyway, I appreciate everybody joining me tonight. I appreciate my guests particularly. And chat, I absolutely appreciate you guys. I hope you will join us again next Saturday when something good will happen, probably better than tonight's show. Because we're trying to constantly improve.
We're going to the stars.
I hope the effort show. I hope the effort shows. We are certainly trying, and we really do. We really do appreciate people showing up and listening to this show on Saturday night, especially. Thank you very much for joining us. The zoo is closed. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
No.